Hi everyone, and thanks for joining me. We're starting out with an intention on our page, which for me is to help me cultivate more joy and play in my life. Then I take out my gesso and we prime the page. We're working in lots of layers this time. So for me, this page was all about experimenting, trying out new things, things that made me feel joyful or childlike. I play with dilution inks, water, blow dryer, heat tool, crayons, collage, ribbon, hot glue gun. So really just experimenting with whatever calls to you and not worrying about the end product. A lot of the theme and writing that I do is on happiness and my happiness, things that'll make me happy. So I take out the colors I want for inks and I just start kind of spraying them wherever. I'd start by concentrating them on the corners. I really liked what happened when I put down the really concentrated colors and then sprayed it with my water bottle. It kind of made a neat little puddles and flows, and eventually that disappears, but it might be something I go back and play with at another time. Moves it around to get drips. Took out my heat tool, and I really like how it dries it. Kind of gets some funky patterns. Looking a little cosmic. A little bit of dabbing, take some color off. If I take too much off, I know I can always go in and put more back on. Creates more of a textured feel to the page. When I first started this, I had originally wanted to keep some white in the middle. So I take out my gesso and try and block in a little bit more white. Dilutions are water soluble, so it pick those up a bit too, so you can see kind of tinting my gesso, but eventually that white completely disappears. So just letting go. Then I decided I wanted to add some collage, and since I'm going for playful and curious, I took an old retired copy of Alice in Wonderland and took out some pages. Tore off the larger blank spaces and ripped them up, one for each side. I used gel medium to glue them down. So then I took out my glue gun, playing the curiosity game and the what would happen if, and I decided to try some writing with him. I wrote, keeping on the theme of cultivating joy and happiness, I wrote words, I wrote play, curiosity, wonder, childlike, happy. So just sort of words that made me feel inspired or make me feel happy. Then I want to know what would happen if I put my inks on top of it again. I figured they would resist, but was curious to know what it would look like around the ones that were on white or on the collage pieces. So really playing, letting it drip, letting it cross the page a little bit, adding layers and layers of color, spreading it out with more water, using my brush to help splatter it. Not really worried about where it's going or what it's covering. And I get the heat tool out again, try spraying while I'm using the heat tool, pushing it in different directions. As you can see, I lost that white space. At my house, there's always dog hair or cat hair everywhere, so I keep a pencil handy to pull out the big ones. So you can see the words kind of poking through in some spots. And I really, really liked the way that looked. So as I mentioned, lots and lots of layers this time. And I take out my gel pen and I just start to kind of free write and journal about what sort of things and actions I can take that would make me happy, even ones that I might be too afraid to take at this time. Eventually this layer is completely lost, so it doesn't matter what you write. If you choose to save some, you can. But if there's parts that you want to hide, then you can cover them up in another layer. So I sped this part up quite a bit. This is where I kind of realized I had to let go of that white space. I tried to block it out with some gesso, but it didn't quite do what I hoped it would. It did make a pretty kind of fog, but this is when I realized to let go. So crayons are definitely something from our childhood, and I really wanted to incorporate them somehow into this piece to stay childlike and playful. So I took out some colors that kind of already complemented what I had there. Put my book up for dripping. Got my heat gun out, or you could use a blow dryer. and started playing. I did take out some gold leaf to experiment with and try. Mostly it just blew everywhere. When I finally got it to stick, it disappeared, and I didn't put any more than that in it for now. I really like melting the crayons this way, sort of unpredictable. And my favorite, I tried writing some words with the white, but my favorite is adding the white because I really like how the other colors kind of blow into it. And you can get some really neat effects. I tried spiraling the crayon, moving the colors around more with the air. Originally, I was thinking that I would just let the crayons drip down, but eventually it turned into mostly crayon all over the page. So I got a little more curious and playful and tried adding some spray inks into the wax. And it was kind of neat because of course, they were resisting the wax, but they would turn into little bubbles and balls, and you could spread them around. It's really funny right now if you could see me. I'm talking into the microphone, but I'm moving my hands as if you can see me. Just thought I'd share that. So really just keeping it loose and staying playful with whatever you're trying on your page. So once the wax was on, there's not really much you can put on top of that. I couldn't add any more paints or sprays because it would just roll off or resist. So I took out a wood burning tool and started etching into it to see what would happen. And you can't really see the etching on there now, but it's little leaves and spirals and flowers. So I had to let my page sit for a while because I didn't really know what else to do to it. Because all I was thinking was like paints and gel medium wouldn't work, wouldn't be able to do anything more to the page, even though it felt like it needed a bit more. So I decided to put on some collage using the hot glue gun because that would at least stick to the wax. It would just meld into it. So using my Alice in Wonderland book again, I decided to cut out some hearts, and I wanted it to be crossing the two pages of the left and right brain. And so I make a series of different sized hearts. I started with just the plain printed paper, but then didn't want to lose the different layers of the hearts in the page, so I added some cardstock or scrapbook paper in between the layers so they would really pop out. And then a little later I added a ribbon. For a little bit I thought I might use the negative space of the heart. So I used gel medium just to glue the hearts to one another, and then I used my hot glue gun to actually glue the hearts to the page. Then things still didn't quite feel finished, so I found just an old ribbon I got from the dollar store that's kind of lacy and wanted to put around the heart. For a little bit I thought I could cut it and make it look a little bit like a crown, but then I decided to put it all around the outside edge. And again I used the hot glue gun because nothing else would stick. And because the heart's a bit curved, I had to do some cutting and patchwork with that. This is where fingers get burned. Luckily, I think I only burnt them once. So this is where the page ends for me. I hope that you felt inspired by this process and that you were inspired to feel playful in your journaling. I can't wait to see what you come up with. Talk to you soon.